I've seen my children react to his actions. How insecure they felt, how unsafe they felt. They wouldn't even go to school for a period of a month. They were scared to come home. I had to warn them, just if you see this gentleman, look after each other, watch your back. I shouldn't have to be having that conversation with children. They should not be felt to feel unsafe living in this kind of a community. This is a first world country. We're supposed to feel safe. This is just a vile, vile individual.
So restorative justice is a facilitated process where a person who has been harmed, a victim, and a person who's responsible for harm either meet face to face, or it can be done via shuttle dialogue where a facilitator goes between person to person. It's a voluntary process, so both parties have to take part on a voluntary basis and can withdraw their consent at any time.
Restorative justice will only work if two people are willing to discuss, listen, hear, understand, show compassion and empathy. And this man has clearly shown that he's not capable of doing that. Well, my story is that I come from South Africa, but I've been living in the UK for many, many years. My dad is a Scotsman and my mom is a South African. I was raised Muslim, brought up in apartheid South Africa. I've literally lived on both sides of the fence. All my kids have been born here as well. Been living in this particular area for the past 6 years and had no issues or problems. Since I've come back from my pilgrimage and wearing my hijab, my neighbour has started assaulting me. He's been arrested on 5 occasions now for aggravated hate crime. For some reason, I think, me wearing my scarf has just triggered him in some way. I came home from an evening out with friends and found a bunch of his dirt lying at my front door, and went and knocked on his door, asked him to clear it up, and I think he was a little bit intoxicated at the time. He ended up spitting in my face, tried to hit me as well, swore and obscenities and hurled, racial abuse at me, called me a Paki, and I take offense to that because I'm not Pakistani, I'm South African. There was no need for that kind of behavior. It was purely vile, purely, antagonistic, and then subsequent to that, his attacks escalated over a period of time, not just against myself, but against my kids as well. And that for me was the worrying factor. And what did I do to warrant this kind of behavior? And I took huge offense to that because literally I had done nothing. The amount of hatred that came from that, incident.
Yeah, they were living in their house, they were scared to go out, their children didn't want to go out and play. And that's the sort of thing that's happening everywhere, and it's slowly chipping away at people's sense of themselves, their sense of self-esteem and self-worth. They feel they're very isolated in their communities.
Restorative justice will only work if somebody has empathy for another person. If someone else is willing to hear somebody's situation, understand their situation, and listening instead of responding. Because I've questioned why, what's motivated him to do this? What's put him in that position to feel that he has the right to treat someone else from a different background in such a hateful manner?
It's a voluntary process, so both parties have to take part on a voluntary basis and can withdraw their consent at any time.
And this man has clearly shown that he's not capable of doing that. To consistently do it on 5 different occasions, intentionally towards a woman and her children. With this individual, I really, really don't think it will work. No, I'd be willing to do that because I'm curious to know what's motivated him, what's really caused him to do something or pushed him to that level. I'm quite curious to know what his reasoning is behind it.
If they did eventually meet, it would be very powerful and very emotional for both parties, but also can be transformative as well.
And I agree, restorative justice does work, but It works where people are willing to have that open communication, that honest communication. I would be willing. I'd be willing to hear his story, to hear him explain his reasoning behind it. I'd be curious. I'd really be curious to hear what he has to say. What motivated him to do what he did.